A city united, prosperity, safety, and compassionate leadership for all. That is the slogan of our esteemed guest, Dr. Curtis Merriweather, who stands as a candidate for mayor of North Charleston. Dr. Merriweather, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So before we dive into the nuts and bolts of you running for mayor, can you talk to me about Curtis, about your history?
Oh man, so very humble beginnings. Went to school in South Carolina, grew up on free and reduced lunch, so I know the story all too well. But my father really believed, I'm a son of a pastor by the way, but my father really taught education.
Okay.
My dad believed that education was the gateway to success and prosperity. So I have embodied that. I'm a graduate of the University of South Carolina, and that was the launching point into probably where we are here today.
Mm-hmm. And now where are you from originally?
I am originally from a small town called Beach Island, South Carolina.
Okay, so your South Carolina roots,
yes,
they run deep.
Absolutely.
And now you're an entrepreneur.
I am.
So you even more so understand the importance of entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about one of your big platforms is business development and growth?
Yes.
What do you hope to see for North Charleston in that realm?
Oh, that's a great question. So when you start a new business, a lot of it, sales is the lifeblood of an organization. So as mayor, one of my objectives is going to be to create a platform that increases business investment in the low country. So just really understanding what our value proposition is, where we fit in the grander ecosystem, and then hoping that large businesses will partner with us to facilitate our goals in the low country.
And now North Charleston is growing, and it's the third largest city in the state.
Yes.
That also comes with crime rates, and
yes.
I believe that North Charleston leads the state in crime.
Yes.
How would you as mayor address that issue?
That's a great question. I think oftentimes, Taylor, when I see these conversations, people oftentimes want to treat crime as a one-off, and it's not. It's a holistic approach. So of course you have to look at, citizen police, relationship improvement, of course. We have to look at how we're doing policing. But I really think to successfully address this problem, we have to look at the root cause of the problem. And the root cause of the problem is poverty. So you have to address the food insecurity. You have to address the affordable housing. When people's basic psychological or sociological needs are not being met, crime is a byproduct. So if we deal with the base, so I call it the base of the pyramid, we can build on top of it. So we have to meet the needs of the citizens. And I believe if we do that, I think you'll see a drastic reduction in crime.
So you mentioned food insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
How would you address that issue?
I would look at, number one, we have to find a right-sized grocery in the area where there's a food desert. If you go to the USDA map, it will show you all the food deserts in the region. So we have to, number one, put a appropriate grocery in that market that will meet the needs of those citizens. The second thing we would look at is a food bank grocery partnership. So to make sure we can drive down the cost. And there's been a lot of doctoral studies done to look at how this actually builds a sustainable food ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And then we're looking at, partner people like Food for the Soul, where they can take food that is not perishing, but food that would be thrown away, and how we can actually refactor that in a way that's smart, providing great meals at a drastically reduced cost.
And now also affordable housing. Mm-hmm. You mentioned that also plays into crime, right. Poverty. Right. What are some things you would implement?
Absolutely. We have to bring down the cost of capital for the developers. Mm-hmm. So if their financing cost is high, it's no wonder that you're going to see an $2,000 apartment. Mm-hmm. So if I can bring down the cost of housing and then come up with a probability, say it's 30, 40, 50%, if we give you government subsidy, that we can bring down the cost, but that no kidding cost has to reach the consumer. Because oftentimes cities will go and they'll do these programs, but it's not felt downstream. So we got to put in protocols in place, and that's just one. The other thing is also looking at the existing stock and rehabilitating, rehabbing, repositioning some of our current property versus just tearing down buildings, which you see in a lot of cities. Let's actually refactor and reposition our current existing stock. So those are just two potential ways that we can bring down housing costs in North Charleston.
Something else that I read, back in 2020, you spent some time with the White House.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
In 2020, I was named a game changer by the White House.
Okay.
And I was also for policy for innovation and entrepreneurship. So the White House policy advisor saw the work we were doing in the government contracting space and thought it was worth bringing us up. Now, when we were at the White House, one of the things we talked about was how to increase minority participation in the contracting process, which is something, of course, that it's not something I'm running on, but it is something that I'm definitely mindful of in, once we become mayor, how we address it, how we make sure that all minorities have a fair seat at the table.
For our viewers, if they want to find out more information, support you, where can they go? You
can go to Merriweather.com. Not Mayweather, I'm not related to Floyd, but Merriweather, Merriweather, for mayor.com. You can volunteer, you can support financially, so there's a bunch of different ways that you can get involved and get engaged with the campaign.
We will put all that information down for you below, and we hope to see you back here when we get a little bit closer to election time. But Dr. Curtis, thank you so much for sitting with us today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We're back in 2 minutes.